Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to cover a bunch of fighting games that I played over the past 30 years that I have strong memories or opinions of. Now there are a few things I do want to mention before I get started. The first thing is I'm not going to cover fighting games I played that I don't really have any strong opinions or feelings of. Like for example, King of Fighters 14 is one fighting game I played, but I don't really have anything to say about that specific game, so that one I was going to skip. Now because I expect this video to be very long, considering as of right now I'm planning on covering 56 different fighting games, I'm going to put chapter markers for each game, so in case you just want to hear me talk about a specific fighting game, you could just skip on ahead. Now, another thing is I'm going to cover fighting games in the order that I remember playing them. So more specifically, later on in this video, there's going to be at least a couple of fighting games I can think of off the top of my head I'm going to cover long after the initial release. And also one last thing, I'm going to put video links in the description below for some of the fighting games I'm going to talk about, because I do have playthrough videos for some of them. And at least for one video that I can think of, I'm going to post a video link to a different video in another channel and further expands upon one of my moments for one of those games. So now I think that about covers everything for this intro, and now let's move on to the first game. As with a lot of folks around my age, the first fighting game that I ever played was Street Fighter 2. But the first version of Street Fighter 2 that I actually played was the Turbo Edition for the Super Nintendo. At the time, one of my cousins got that game for Christmas along with a Super Nintendo, and he would always challenge me to the game. So whenever we played, he would pick Guile while I would use Ryu. Now keep that part with Guile specifically in mind as I get close to the end of this video. Now the thing is, every time I played him, he would just destroy me. And the thing is, at the time, I only had an NES. Not a Super Nintendo, not a Genesis, but a regular original 8-bit NES. So I couldn't even practice learning how to play, and I would always get destroyed. Now finally, one Christmas, I actually got the Sega Genesis, where it was the Model 2 Genesis that came with a 6-button controller, and one of my relatives bought me Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. So now I finally got a chance to actually learn how to play. Every day I would play that game, over and over again, trying to learn how to play, and more specifically how to beat Guile. And one day, I finally got a chance to play my cousin again in Street Fighter on the Super Nintendo. And for the first time ever, I was actually doing well against him. Now the thing is, as I was playing, I was getting closer to beating him. And just as I was about to beat him, that's right, he got up, turned off the Super Nintendo, said something along the lines of, "Oops, the game turned off," or something like that. And it was an in-person rage quit. At the time, I remember being pretty upset, but looking back on it now, like around 30 years later, I actually appreciate the in-person rage quit much more than simply just beating him and finishing the match. So the feeling of just satisfaction of just seeing myself improve and to just actually make him quit, in hindsight, that was what got me started into fighting games. It made me love them and want to play them even more over the years. For Mortal Kombat, I have a quick short story before I talk about the game regarding how I actually got it. So, one day, a couple of my relatives sat me down in the living room to tell me that one of my relatives passed away. Now, when I was trying to hear them give me the news, I was kind of a little bit confused before as how serious it was. At the time, I may have been like 7 years old, maybe. But the thing is, this specific relative I rarely saw. So when they told me it's passed away, I was kind of confused because I really rarely saw this relative. At least that I can remember. And then once they finished giving me the news, they gave me a copy of Mortal Kombat 1 for the Genesis. Once I saw that, I was pretty pumped up because I had heard about the game and how fun it was supposed to be and how parents are supposed to hate it because it's no good for kids. That just made me want to play it even more. So then I finally played the game. And then also the game, the instruction booklet, for those of you young people that did not grow up in the 90s, games came with instruction books that will give you some more info about the characters, controls, and so on. And for the Genesis version, the instruction book, it will give you a code to put in, so that way you can actually have blood in the game. So by default, it was turned off unless you put in that code. Now, once I actually played it and did the fatalities, I thought while it was cool, I did not see why it was such a big deal. I mean, it looked cool and all, but I didn't think it was that crazy to really just, for people to just go insane about. Hell, from what I remember, there were movies that were way more violent than that. So, now the thing is, while I thought the fatalities were cool, the gameplay just did not grab me. I did not remember it being very good. So once I saw the fatalities, I was just back to Street Fighter 2 as my main fighting game at the time.
Fight!
For Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighters, the first version of this game I actually played was the Super Nintendo version, which one of my cousins got. Now, I remember having a lot of fun with the game back then. I thought it looked really cool graphics wise. And basically, it just seemed like to me it was Ninja Turtles version of Street Fighter 2, which is pretty cool with me. Now, with that being said, since my cousin got that version, I unfortunately got the Sega Genesis version instead. For the Genesis version of Tournament Fighters, I did not like that version at all, especially after playing the Super Nintendo version. From what I remember, the graphics just looked terrible compared to the Super Nintendo. The sounds were worse. The controls I remember having issues with compared to the Super Nintendo version. And most of all, I remember the AI being really difficult and frustrating for me to deal with. It felt like the Sega Genesis version was a couple of steps down for the Super Nintendo version. Now at the time, I only had a Sega Genesis and I did not get a Super Nintendo yet, but I still felt pretty ripped off with the Genesis version. Earlier, I talked about Mortal Kombat 1 and how disappointed I was with it. But damn, did my feelings change for Mortal Kombat 2. That felt so much superior to the original in every way. And to make things better, I got the Super Nintendo version, which I finally got for Christmas, along with some other games. It had better graphics, better sound, the controls were much better, at least they felt that way to me over the original. And I also thought the fatalities looked really cool. Way better than the first one, especially Liu Kang's Dragon Fatality. That had to be my favorite one for MK2. Another thing I'll say about Mortal Kombat 2 is, for me, personally, it's my favorite of the original trilogy. And I'll get into the reason for that when I talk about Mortal Kombat 3 later on.
Superb. Sub-Zero wins. Round 3. Fight. Finish him. Kitana wins.
Fuck. What is there to say about this game except that it absolutely sucks? So, along with Mortal Kombat 2, this is one of the games I got for Christmas. Now, I'm guessing my relative got me this for 2 reasons. 1, I loved fighting games, and 2, I was a big basketball fan back in the day. I can't think of any other reason why anyone would buy this for someone else. I mean, it is just awful. Awful. The characters are just boring, uninteresting, except for when Shaq does that dance at the end of a match. That's alright. The controls are just absolutely horrible. The floaty jumps. It's awful. It looks awful. It plays awful. It's just so bad. Now, just for fun, I had eventually rented the Genesis version because I had to see just... It couldn't have been that bad, I thought. Because I know with Street Fighter 2, the Genesis and Super Nintendo versions were different along with Mortal Kombat. So I figured I'd play the Genesis version. And damn, from what I remember, that was just even worse. Now, one last thing I do want to mention regarding this crap is I actually have a playthrough video where I played through the story mode for Shaq Fu, in case you want to see for yourself just how awful it is. Damn, it sucks. Just awful. For Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3, back then I did not like it as much as Mortal Kombat 2. While I thought the game had pretty good graphics and I did like the new robot characters like Sector and Cyrax, I did not like the gameplay as much. For one thing, the run button was just really weird for me to just get used to. And the other issue that I had was the controls, more specifically doing the combos. For some reason, I just had a lot of trouble doing the combos, and just the gameplay just did not gel with me. Nowadays, it probably is the best game out of the original trilogy, but for me, just going based on nostalgia and what I preferred back when I was a kid, I still put MK2 as my favorite of the original trilogy.
Round 3. Fight! Finish him!
Battle Arena Toshinden was actually the first 3D fighter that I've ever played. I played it through my cousin who had a PlayStation at the time, whereas Back then, I had the Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. I was always behind when it comes to the systems. I would always get the older systems, and then he would always get the newer ones. Now, at the time, I was blown away. Back then, I did not know of Virtua Fighter or Tekken, and this was the first 3D game I saw. The graphics, to me at the time, they just looked so much cooler than what Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat were doing. Along with the 3D movement too, where you could just move around. Now, I will say, even though the controls and the graphics do not hold up very well today, compared to modern 3D games like Tekken 7, for example, and eventually 8, when that comes out in a few months from this recording, I still had a lot of fun when I previously played that game for a playthrough video that I made that's on this channel. And one other thing I do want to point out, the music is absolutely fantastic in this game and definitely worth listening to.
No problem!
So for this X-Men game, I have a pretty short story, and this is not going to paint me in a positive light. So when this game came out, I went to a friend's house to play it. Now the thing is, this person just destroyed me every match from what I remember. And at one point, I just threw the controller on the ground. Now surprisingly, I don't remember actually going back to his house after that. Gee, I wonder why. The game was alright though, from what I remember. I guess.
You win! Round 2. Fight! You win!
Instead of receiving a PlayStation 1 for Christmas, I got a Sega Saturn instead, but it was a 3-game bundle, and it came with Virtua Cop, Daytona USA, the Championship Circuit Edition I think it was called, and the third one, my favorite out of the bundle, Virtua Fighter 2. This blew Battle Arena Toshinden out of the water. It was so much better in every way. The controls felt so much better even though there was only 3 buttons. The movement felt so much better, and the music also is fantastic along with the great graphics. Even though it came out, it came out like 93, 94, so around like 30 years ago or close to it, it still holds up and it's still a great game, one of my favorite fighting games ever. Unfortunately, Sega doesn't seem to care too much about Virtua Fighter nowadays, considering they haven't released any kind of Virtua Fighter collection. And I doubt we're going to see a new Virtua Fighter anytime soon. With that being said, at least we can legally play Virtua Fighter 2 in the Yakuza games, thankfully. Now I know wrestling games are not considered by some to be fighting games, but I'm going to include it, especially this one here. I had so much fun with this game back in the day, and it was one of the games I got when I finally got a PS1 for Christmas. For me, it was a fun wrestling game. It was fast, chaotic gameplay style that really felt like a fun arcade fighting game, and it still holds up well today. Earlier this year, I actually got to play it again for the first time since I was a kid when I went to Combo Breaker and participated in the Mystery Game Tournament. This game is so much fun. I had such a blast playing that game. Definitely love to see a wrestling game like that come out again in the future. Now, I doubt that's going to happen with the way the WWE games are, but man, it was such a fun game. I gotta find a way to play it again one of these days.
A capacity crowd here tonight. What's this? Incredible combination move. Look at this. What a blow. That's right. High-risk maneuver. Excellent.
For as blown away as I was going from Battle Arena Toshinden to Virtua Fighter 2, I was even more blown away once I got a chance to rent Tekken 2. There were so many more characters than Virtua Fighter 2. The music I thought was much better, and most importantly, it actually had ending cutscenes for each character when you beat the arcade mode. Going back to Virtua Fighter 2 was pretty hard after that. For me, it felt like it was a ripoff compared to Tekken 2. Tekken 2 had more characters, and when I actually beat arcade mode, I got something for it. Whereas with Virtua Fighter 2, there were no endings for any of the characters. You just get a credit screen and then put your initials for the top score, and that was it. After I played Tekken 2, man, I was so looking forward to eventually getting a chance to play Tekken 3.
Hey, yo. Round 2. Fight. Hey, yo. You win.
For Street Fighter Alpha, I really love the new graphics style Capcom went. I really dig the anime look, and I think this released around the same time as the Street Fighter 2 animated movie if I remember correctly. Gameplay wise, it definitely felt like a new game. The movement definitely felt different, and also you had a chance to do the super moves along with the alpha counters. And I had such a blast playing this back in the day.
KO. You win. Round 2. Fight. Hadouken! Hadouken! Rainbow! Rainbow! Hadouken! 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 KO! You win a reason.
As I've reached this game, now I'm starting to think to myself, is this better or worse than Shaq Fu? This game was absolutely awful. I think this game may have released around the time the Star Wars movies were re-released back in the mid-90s. I rented this game after seeing the Star Wars movies, if I remember correctly, and I did not spend a lot of time playing this game. Everything about it was just awful. The graphics were bad. I don't even remember much about the sound itself. I remember not thinking too much about it. The controls were really, really bad. Awful, awful game. Thankfully, I rented it because it was definitely not worth buying at all.
You win. Easier than shooting log rats back home. Final round. Fight. Knockout. You win. I'm ready.
Bushido Blade was an alright game back in the day. It was very different and yet cool. It was different in that you could only just land one hit to end the whole match. Instead of just going back and forth, you could just land one well-timed hit that would end the whole match. So it did definitely create a lot of tension to every match. Now the thing is, I think I replayed this last year, if I remember correctly. I should have a playthrough video up. I don't think the gameplay and controls hold up well today, but I do think a modern day version of Bushido Blade will be pretty cool and will get a lot of attention.
誰であろうと構わない。
When I finished school one year, my relatives bought me 3 games for the PS1. The first one was Duke Nukem 3D, and the second one was Street Fighter Alpha 3, one of my favorite fighting games ever for multiple reasons. The game had great music, a ton of characters, and the different play styles was a lot of fun due to the different what's called ism super meters. More specifically, the V-ism meter I had a lot of fun with. Now for me, the custom combo mechanic was completely new because I had never played Street Fighter Alpha 2. And this new mechanic was really fun to use. The best part of Street Fighter Alpha 3, the PS1 version specifically for me, was the World Tour mode. In that mode, you get to travel the world fighting against different characters in different conditions while being able to level up your character. The way to level up your character is you would choose different abilities from the different ism meters and have your own custom character in a way. I had a lot of fun playing that mode, and unfortunately there aren't too many modes really like that nowadays. The only one I can think of that's similar to that off the top of my head is the Virtua Fighter 4 Quest mode, and also the SoulCalibur games had a similar type of mission mode as well. Outstanding fighting game that still holds up today. Along with Street Fighter Alpha 3 and Duke Nukem 3D, the third game I got was Tekken 3. And then just an awesome fighting game, another one of my favorites. It was a huge upgrade over Tekken 2 in every way. The graphics, the music, the new characters, and most of all the Tekken Force mode, which was a side-scrolling beat 'em up. And I've loved beat 'em ups back in the day and still do today. Gameplay-wise, it's just such a good game, and it's hard to choose between which one is better between Tekken 3 and Street Fighter Alpha 3. Maybe in the future I could make some kind of video just going back and forth, trying to figure out which one is ultimately better. If I had to say, go with my gut, for me it's probably Street Fighter Alpha 3 because of the World Tour mode. But damn, both games are just so good, it's hard to choose which one is better than the other.
You win.
Even though my first THQ Nintendo 64 game that I played was WCW NWO Revenge, my memories are specifically with WWF Wrestlemania 2000. Back in the day, wrestling was huge. All of us in the neighborhood loved watching wrestling, more specifically the WWF, along with the THQ Nintendo 64 games, which still hold up today in my opinion. What we would do is, all of us would go into each other's houses to play the game, and we would play the Royal Rumble mode, where each time someone would get eliminated, someone else would just grab the controller and keep on playing. Those are really fun times, and for me personally, you just don't get that kind of fun when playing with people online. Even when playing with friends, online it just does not feel the same as playing with people right next to you. It's just not the same, at least for me. When I finally got a Sega Dreamcast, one of the games I received for Christmas was SoulCalibur. And this game was a huge deal at the time. What made it really stand out was that the Dreamcast version actually surpassed the arcade version in terms of graphics. Back in the day, the console versions of arcade games were looked at as inferior. They did not have as good of graphics, the sound was not as good either, and SoulCalibur just was such an impressive looking game. And it played well also. And the Dreamcast version also had a mission-based mode where it was similar to Street Fighter Alpha 3, where you fight against characters in different conditions, although as you play through this mission mode, you get to unlock character art for the game. I believe you also get to unlock some additional art for the stages and some other designs as well. And it was definitely a great single-player fighting game.
Versus Ivy. Battle 1, fight! This victory strengthened the soul of Maxi. You win! Battle 2, fight!
This victory strengthens the soul of Maxi. You win!
Virtua Fighter 3 was another one of the games I received for Christmas with the Dreamcast, and I was pretty disappointed by it. Compared to SoulCalibur, it just felt like such a letdown, and not only that, the game also had only 2 new characters. And just compared to other games like SoulCalibur, along with Street Fighter Alpha 3 and Tekken 3, I had mentioned this with Virtua Fighter 2 that I felt ripped off playing that after playing Tekken 2. Yeah, I definitely felt the same way with Virtua Fighter 3, and I did not spend much time playing it before I went back to SoulCalibur and some other Dreamcast games I would eventually get. As much as I loved SoulCalibur, I think I had to put Marvel vs. Capcom 2 above that, and it's definitely one of my favorite fighting games ever. As chaotic as the first one felt like, this one was taken up a notch to another level with the 3 vs. 3 format. And just like with the original, the graphics look great, and the gameplay is still so much fun. I spent so much time back in the day grinding arcade mode trying to unlock all of the characters, as there were 56 characters total. And also one other thing, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, in my opinion, has the best character select theme ever. Ever.
Select your heroes.
When I first played Street Fighter 3 Third Strike on the Dreamcast, I was pretty disappointed compared to other games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 and SoulCalibur. Third Strike at the time felt like a huge step down for me. And this is back when 3D graphics were getting more attention, even in the early 2000s. They were getting more attention. And another thing I did not like too much was the roster. There were only 4 returning characters from previous Street Fighter games, and I thought a bunch of the characters looked really just weird, like Necro, 12, and Hugo. At the time, it just did not grab me. Nowadays, it's one of my favorite fighting games ever, but back then, just wasn't too crazy about it compared to the other games I was playing at the time. For Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition, I put that on this list because this is when I actually started appreciating just how good Street Fighter 3 Third Strike actually is. Being able to play this game online made me appreciate just how good the gameplay was, as playing with people online is so much more fun than playing against the AI, and just seeing how different players use the different characters gave me a much better appreciation for how good the game actually is. For Tekken 4, I did not like it too much at the time. From what I remember, the character roster I felt like was pretty small compared to Tekken 3. And I also did not like the changes they made to the stages at all, where for some of the stages you will fight at different elevation levels. And there were a couple of stages specifically I really did not like, such as the parking lot stage. I remember that one being really small, just did not like that stage at all. Yeah, didn't really like this game too much after Tekken 3. Thankfully though, there was Tekken 5, which felt like a big step up and back to form to Tekken. At least for me it did.
Round 2. Fight.
When the new Mortal Kombat was reviewed, I was definitely interested in playing the new Mortal Kombat, as I have skipped Mortal Kombat 4. I was even more interested when I found out that they actually killed off Liu Kang, who was the main protagonist for the first 3 MK games, and I guess 4 as well. Now, when I did get to play it though, there were several issues I had with the game. Like for example, each character only had 1 fatality, and there were no stage fatalities. So it kind of felt like a step down in that regard. One thing I did really like though was the crypt mode. So the MK Deadly Alliance was the first game that actually had this mode where you can unlock content. And I did enjoy, there was some silly stuff included in there, like the Cooking with Scorpion video, which you can find on YouTube. The crypt was probably, I would say that's probably the thing I liked the most about this game. As the game was a step, it got improved once Deception came out. Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution is one of my favorite fighting games ever for one simple reason, which is the quest mode. In this mode, you get to fight against AI enemies that are based off real-life participants for people who play Virtua Fighter 4 competitively in Japan. That was a really huge feature, as it made actually fighting against the AI fun for a change, which is unusual in fighting games. Now, I did mention earlier, I do wish there was some kind of a Virtua Fighter collection that would get released nowadays. Especially this specific PS2 version, as this would be a lot of fun to play today.
Bring it on. Fight 1. Ready? Go! KO! Fight 2. Ready? Go!
Wanna fight again?
The reason I put Capcom vs SNK 2, the Xbox version, on this list is because it was the first fighting game that I ever played online. For me, this is such a big deal because I did not have anyone to play with at the time in person, because I was the only one growing up that really liked fighting games. People would come to my house to watch me play, but they would not play against me. And also, I had no such thing there was any kind of a local FGC existed on places such as the Chinatown Fair to go to. If I knew, I definitely would have gone to those places. Now, from what I remember, number one, I don't think the online netcode was very good. And also, with the Xbox, I had the original Duke controller with the really just awful D-pad. So I ended up using the analog stick for special move inputs, but that did not take away from the fun at all. I think my win-loss record from what I remember was like really bad, around like 300 wins and over 1,500 losses, something crazy like that. Well, I didn't care. I was just happy I got a chance to play fighting games with people in person. That was more than good enough for me.
Hey, who allowed them to join this tournament? They're way too slow.
Mortal Kombat Deception was a huge improvement over Deadly Alliance. For one thing, each character had 2 fatalities again, and they also brought back stage fatalities. Another mechanic this game had that has not been brought back since is what's called the Harakiri mechanic, where when you're about to lose a match and the announcer says finish him, you can do your own fatality, the Harakiri, where you can perform a fatality on yourself before giving your opponent a chance to do so. There were also a couple of cool modes, such as chess combat and puzzle combat. Chess combat, we just basically chess with Mortal Kombat characters, where you put the characters to represent the respective pieces. And then you can also use some abilities for lay traps for some of the spots in the chessboard. It was a pretty cool thing at the time. And puzzle combat, it was pretty much like the Super Puzzle Fighter games. That's not really sure how to explain it other than that. It's a pretty simple way to put it. Now, one other thing that makes this game special, and for me, the one I enjoyed the most in the MK PS2 trilogy, is the ability to play online. Now, back then, the PlayStation 2, to play online, you had to create your own online accounts with the third-party publisher publishing the game, as at the time, Sony did not have a unified PlayStation accounts for you to use. And also, those publishers had their own servers that you had to directly connect to, instead of going through Sony servers to then go to their servers. And in this case, I believe I had to sign up for a GameSpy account. And then once I had the account set up, you could just jump into the lobby and play it online. I don't remember anything specific about the online. As far as the netcode goes, I don't think there was voice chat either, but I could be wrong on that from what I remember. Tekken 5 is one of my favorite fighting games ever. It's definitely felt like a return to form for me after playing Tekken 4. It had a great roster with some really cool characters that are brand new to the franchise, such as Fang and Asuka. Definitely better music and stages than Tekken 4. And it's definitely an awesome fighting game overall. Now, one thing I do want to mention as a negative is the game's Devil Within mode, which is like a 3D beat 'em up, but it's just awful. When I did a playthrough video a week or two at the time of this recording, I actually thought about doing another separate playthrough video for Devil Within mode, but I just could not do it. The controls are just absolutely awful, along with the camera. I felt like I was spending more time fighting with the camera than I was fighting the enemies on screen. But when it comes to the actual fighting, the gameplay is just solid, and a really fun game that still holds up today. For Fight Night Round 2, I just have a quick short story. So my memory of this game was I was playing this online, and I was playing online against a teenage girl who was going back and forth between cursing and cheering while she was playing, along with talking to a friend on the phone. It was just a back and forth match, and as her reactions was going up and down, I just could not stop laughing. Now, I did have my headset on, but I had it on mute, so she could not hear me, but I was laughing throughout the match as I was trying to play. Now, even though it went back and forth, eventually she was able to win, where she just kept yelling and cheering because she was so happy. Now that I described that short story, I kind of wish I was able to get excited, as I'm generally just either get frustrated when I lose, or when I win, I'm happy I win, but I don't really think I get as happy as I should be at times.
There he goes! He goes down again! And he's just getting pummeled now! Wow, Leonard's on fire here tonight, and he wants the world to see it. Let's take another look how he kept hammering his opponent. He wouldn't let up, even on the way down.
One, two, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's over.
Listen to the crowd. They won't let up. They're absolutely thrilled at seeing the knockout here tonight. They're going nuts for Leonard.
Mortal Kombat Armageddon absolutely sucked. From what I remember, some of the characters, even though every character from every previous Mortal Kombat game was in it, some of the characters shared special moves and combos, from what I remember. And also, the arcade mode endings, which is really boring. Instead of each character having their own individual ending, it would just show each character, whoever you beat the game with, it would just show them on top of a pyramid doing martial arts move while voiceover says what happened to them. They were all very similar and just really, really boring. And to top it off, the characters did not have their own individual fatalities. What we got instead was called the Create a Fatality, where when you get to the finish him screen, you would just do specific inputs and try to create your own custom fatality. But no matter what inputs you did, they were all just really, really boring, and it sucked. It absolutely sucked. Street Fighter 4. Damn, that game was such a huge deal back when it was announced. From what I remember, it felt like Street Fighter 4 really re-energized the fighting game genre. I mean, there were a couple of other good games that came out before that, like Tekken 5, but before Street Fighter 4, I felt like the fighting game genre really went downhill in terms of popularity, especially compared to the 90s. But then Street Fighter 4 really changed things up for the better. The game looked awesome graphics-wise. I really dig the new colorful ink graphic style. It just looked really cool to me. And I also like the focus attack mechanic, which for Street Fighter 6 players, that's where the drive impact mechanic originally came from. And also, one other thing is you can play Street Fighter Online, which was just an awesome experience. For me, my mains were Ken and Crimson Viper. And Viper specifically, I would not mind seeing in Street Fighter 6, hopefully. Now, much as I loved and still do love Street Fighter 4, there is one thing I gotta say. Indestructible is an awful, awful song. I like cheesy stuff, but that song sucks and it's terrible. And I despise anyone who actually thinks that song is good. Disgusting.
This is the final round. Fight!
I loved Mortal Kombat 9, and still do. It was definitely a back to form after Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe and Mortal Kombat Armageddon. Finally, Mortal Kombat was good again. It had an awesome roster, and also a fun challenge type of mode, where you had 300 different challenges that you would go through with the different characters. Although the one downside is, once you complete all of the missions, you just get a costume from Elena and nothing else. So I was disappointed and you did not get any kind of like a special character or anything like that. And the best part about MK9 that I enjoyed the most was the story mode. This is the first fighting game I played where the story mode was actually good and worth playing through. And to this day, NetherRealm is the only studio that I can think of that actually makes a good story mode for fighting games. There was also online as well, but by the time I got it, the online was pretty much dead, so I never got a chance to actually test out the online netcode for it.
Kenji wins.
So, I have previously talked about how good Mortal Kombat 9 story mode was. I felt the complete opposite for the Tekken 6 story mode. The story mode was via 3D beat 'em up, which while it was not as bad as the Tekken 5's Devil Within mode, it was still not very good. And it definitely felt pretty boring as I played through it. I believe you have to play through it to unlock at least one secret character, maybe two if I remember correctly, but it was just not fun to play through at all. That's pretty much all that I remember as far as my feelings go for Tekken 6.
Fight!
So Dead or Alive 5 was actually the first DOA game that I played. At the time that I played it, I thought of it as a modern day Virtua fighter, and it was a lot of fun to play, and it definitely felt very similar as far as just how the gameplay mechanics worked out. Now, when DOA 6 got announced, I was definitely excited to play it after having so much fun with DOA 5, more specifically so I could play DOA with people online, because at the time I played DOA 5, it was years after its release, so there was no one to play with online. Now, unfortunately, I got to test out the netcode in the DOA 6 demo, and yeah, that pretty much killed my interest in DOA 6.
Get ready, fight! Nothing can hinder my spirit. Nothing!
When I first played Mortal Kombat X, it felt like a step down for me. It did not feel as good as MK9 for several reasons. For one thing, I did not think the story mode was as good as MK9, and also I did not care much for the new Kombat kids, outside of Cassie Cage, who I thought was cool. The one other thing I remember was the online was not very good for the game at all when it first came out, and it was a while before eventually it got patched up with rollback netcode, thankfully. But because of how bad the online experience was, when I first played it, I did not play the online much once the netcode update dropped. Nowadays though, I will say Mortal Kombat X is my favorite of the reboot trilogy because of just how fun and fast the gameplay is. It feels like, I would call it just Mortal Kombat Turbo basically. The gameplay feels so much faster compared to MK9 and eventually 11. And finally we reach Street Fighter V, and this is definitely going to be the longest chapter in this video for a lot of reasons. While Street Fighter V is definitely not the best fighting game I've ever played, I would go as far as to say it's actually my favorite fighting game I've ever played, because this is the one fighting game that's actually had a positive on my personal life. It was the first fighting game I ever played where I wanted to actually get good at, and not just mash buttons and special moves. So sometime after the game was released, I went to a meetup where people were playing Street Fighter V, and even though I went 0-2, I was in every match, and I did not get destroyed by either of the people I was playing against. So that motivated me even more to keep trying to improve, and eventually I ordered my first arcade stick, the Hori Rap 4, which I still have today, and it's a very good stick. Now eventually, after a certain point, at the time I was using Chun-Li as my main, And at that point, I believe I was in the silver, either silver or super silver, and I felt like I reached the limit of what I can do with that character. So to change things up, I went into training mode. I chose the random select option, and it picked Gaio for me. Now, going back to Street Fighter 2, I was never a fan of Gaio, but I figured I'll use him for a week, give him a chance, try to learn how to use him, and if I don't like him after 1 week, I can use someone else. Now, fast forward to 2023, and he's actually still my main in Street Fighter 6. Now, eventually with Gaio, I finally reached gold rank for the first time. Now, so from that point on, I would bounce on and off playing that game as I really did not have a strong incentive to play it continuously until a year ago in 2022, when I joined the Discord called FGC Boomers. It's a Discord with mostly older fighting game players like me who love fighting games in general, and it's a fantastic group. For me specifically, they've always been supportive and given me great advice. And joining the group made me want to play Street Fighter V more often because finally I had a group of people to play with consistently and who helped me improve by leaps and bounds to a level I never thought I would get to. Now, eventually, like about a month or two after I joined the Discord during Combo Breaker of that year of 2022, I was talking about how cool it would be to join the FGC events, but did not feel like I'd actually belong there because for some reason I thought you had to be a pro player to show up for those types of events. And thankfully, a bunch of those people in the Discord talked some sense into me, mentioned you don't need to be a high-level player to have fun at those events. Even if you're not competing, there's still a blast where you get a chance to meet new people and play fighting games all weekend. And eventually, I signed up for my first event called East Coast Showdown. It had such a blast. Going in there, my goal was just to have fun. I did not think I was actually going to beat anyone. I figured there's going to be all the top players in the country and probably the world, and I'm just going to get destroyed. But sure enough, I was able to actually win a set in the loser's bracket before I got eliminated. That just felt absolutely awesome, going from the gold rank from when I joined that Discord to at that point, like about a week or two before ECT, I actually reached the platinum rank. And thanks to everyone in that Discord, I was actually able to win a set to reach that good of a level. And I just had such a blast to the point where I still go to several FGC events since then, and I still got ECT, which is coming up in a few weeks from the time of this recording, to go to as well for Street Fighter 6. Now, after that event, I did continue playing online because I really wanted to continue getting better. And somehow I reached Diamond rank, which is something I never thought would happen. Now, for me, my Street Fighter V story ends at Combo Breaker. Yeah, Combo Breaker is actually 2022. 2021 is when I joined the Discord, so it's 2022 that I showed up for, where I went 2-2 before losing. But again, I had such a blast, even with the losses. Thanks to that Discord, along with Street Fighter V, I've had some great memories and met some great friends, both online and offline. And if it wasn't for that Discord and this game, I definitely would not have had those memories. And I wouldn't have shown up to FGC events, which is pretty much the one thing that I look forward to nowadays. I'm so thankful not just for that Discord, but also for putting in as much time as I did in Street Fighter V. And I'm definitely going to be putting in some more time in Street Fighter 6 in the future. No, I did boom. I messed it up. Go here, nope. Oh, he got me all over. Yeah. Alright. So a new round over. Just need to win this match.
Fight.
There you go, use the throws. twice. I can't go for close in both attempts. One more round. One. I thought he was gonna block that for a split second. Alright, let's go for it. Avoid. Ah, he's gonna do super, I think. Alright, use this stick. I got him there with the super. No. Oh, fuck! Yes! Got it! I fucking got it! I'm giving us points.
Win.
I made it, didn't I? Did I? Got it! Good. Yeah, give it up points. Yes! Injustice 2 I put on this list for one specific reason only, which is the Ninja Turtles. I was a big fan of Ninja Turtles growing up, and once I found out they were going to be in the game, I got so excited. The way that I found out was, I woke up from bed one morning and I grabbed my phone because I remembered the night before there was some rumors about the new DLC content was going to be revealed for Injustice 2. So I grabbed my phone and I saw there was a trailer, and without looking at anyone's comments, I just opened it up to see who the new characters were going to be. So as I saw the characters, no one really stood out for me. But then I saw the Sai on the floor. Now I thought that was actually going to be Melina, who I saw was rumored to be one of the characters in the new DLC pack. But then Raphael walked out with the trench coat, and I'm thinking, oh shit. And then once he took it off, it showed all the turtles, and I went crazy. I jumped way out of bed to see what was going on, because I was wondering, I saw all 4 turtles. I thought it was insane you could be able to play as all of them. And it was just crazy. And showing that once they released, I had a blast playing as all 4 of the turtles. Now, from what I remember, by that point, there was not a lot of people playing online back when they released. At least from what I remember. So I just stuck with playing them single player, but I still had fun with all 4 characters. In the description, I'm going to post a link for that trailer that I saw, just so other people can see just the reaction of the people who were watching that in person, as I was just as excited as they were when I saw the reveal.
Coming through, bro. My turn. Shell shot.
Donatello wins.
Where'd you come from? Pizza.
While I like Tekken 7 and it's a pretty fun fighting game, I hate the online portion of the game. It's even worse if you're playing the PlayStation version, where the load times are much longer than the PC version. Even on the PS5, it's still really long because Tekken 4 did not receive a PS5 enhancement patch. So the way the online will work for Tekken 5 is, you will queue yourself up for your match, and then once you choose the option to accept the match with someone, you gotta sit through a loading screen for the match, and then after that match is over, 2 things will happen. Either A, the person will quit after the first match, or B, they will choose to continue, but then you gotta wait for another loading screen to play the next match, even though you just played this person. And from my experience, most people would quit after one match. So the way my online experience would be, I would queue up for a match, get matched up with someone, play one match, and then win or lose, they quit, back to the loading screen to queue up, accept the match, only to queue up to another loading screen to play someone again. The loading times have just absolutely killed my fun for Tekken 7. Again, I love playing the game, but the online is just a terrible experience for me. Although I will say, the netcode, even though it was not great, it was better for me than it was for Street Fighter V.
KO. Round 2. Fight. Perfect. Round 3. Fight. KO. You win.
When Dragon Ball Fighterz was first revealed at Microsoft E3 press conference, that was probably as excited as I've ever been for a video game in general up to that point. I was a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z growing up, and once I saw the game, I lost my mind. Graphics wise, it looked exactly like the anime, and gameplay wise, it looked just like Marvel versus Capcom. It was my dream fighting game at that point. But then the game released. And Orxis has this level of fear with the lobby system, which is, I just hate the lobby system. When you start the game, you choose to go into the online mode, and then you have to jump into a lobby to go into the ranked match section. And then you experience the netcode. The netcode is just absolutely awful. I'm going to post a video in the description of online matches that I played where the last match in the video was just an absolute slowed down mess, showing the netcode with the delayed frames. Now, at EVO 2022, they announced at around 5:30 in the morning Eastern Time, because all the EVO events went so far late that that's when they actually had the Dragon Ball Grand Finals. That's when they revealed the rollback netcode update. And as of September 2023, still no rollback update. So I'm not getting my hopes up for that game, unfortunately. Hopefully there is a Fighterz 2 in the future that has rollback netcode and crossplay day one. Oh no! Oh, what is this? Oh man, this is awful! Hey, come on! I'm not playing this anymore. This sucks. This is a joke, man. I don't feel like playing this anymore. I'm done, man. What is this? This is a joke.
It is unlocked to make me wait. Is that all? Come. Down you go. This attack decisive.
This is such a joke, man. I'm playing in slow motion.
You have no hope of winning. This is the end. Down you go. Punishment of a god. This is my blade. Have it, bro.
This is such a joke, man. This is the worst I've ever played online. This is the worst I've ever played in an online game. I don't play planners anymore. I'm done. What the hell?
Out of my way.
What is this?
I'm going to enjoy this. Get ready. Then how about this? Stay out of my way. It's over. You've done well to last this long, but your time is out.
While I really enjoyed the gameplay in Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which I also played for the first time via the 30th Anniversary Collection, the one thing that sticks out to me is the AI for that game. Because in the Anniversary Collection, it has the US ROM version where the AI is busted, so regardless of what difficulty you set the game to, it fights you at max difficulty and it reads all your input starting from like the third battle on. It was such a frustrating experience, and thankfully I was able to record a playthrough video where I was somehow able to find a way to cheese the AI into beating it on the hardest difficulty. I could definitely see the game being a lot of fun when playing with friends. Definitely not the AI, at least not the AI included in the US ROM version. Just awful and very frustrating. When the COVID pandemic first hit, I was going through a lot of the video games I played, and one of the games that stood out for me that I did not play previously, even though I bought it during the Steam sale, was King of Fighters 98. Now, the first KOF game I actually played was KOF 13 on the PS3, but I don't really remember anything as far as my feelings were on that game at the time. When I played KOF 98, damn, I was just hooked. From all the awesome characters that were really fun to play with to the music. And the graphics look great as well. Even nowadays, the game still looks really good when it comes to the graphics. And the stages look fantastic. I was so hooked on this game, I just played it non-stop with all of the respective teams. And having to deal with the boss AI. So, it's definitely one of my favorite fighting games ever, by far. Definitely my favorite SNK game.
Are you ready? Ready, go!
Another game that I really got into when the pandemic first started was Killer Instinct 2013. The game is just so much fun. The gameplay controls are just so much fun with great music, but I really love the combo breaker mechanic where as you're getting beat up, when you're not blocking, if you guess the right punch and kick button that your opponent is using, you can break the combo. But if you guess wrong, they can just punish you. But still, just having that option is such an awesome mechanic. And I wish more games had something similar to that. Another thing I loved is what's called the Shadow Lords mode, where you get to fight the boss when you choose 3 different characters. And there's a roguelike mode where each time you play it, the conditions change. And you can also buy power-ups to get through the mode easier. Now, one other thing this game does, which is really cool, and I'd like to see more fighting games do, is they have what's called AI shadows, where a shadow is an AI representing data from a character, someone that played online with a specific character. So it's somewhat similar to Virtua Fighter 4's Quest mode, except Killer Instinct is using data from online matches played. And it's pretty realistic too, like from what I remember, there was one shadow I played against that actually teabagged me. So I think that was pretty realistic, representing some of the players who play online. Awesome, awesome game.
Run from fate. But you should have tried.
Awesome victory.
The reason I'm putting Virtua 5 Ultimate Showdown on here is because this is actually, for me, the first game I recorded online videos of when I started this channel a couple of years ago. I wanted to start this channel as a way to share what I enjoy, sort of doing this as a new hobby. And Virtua Fighter Game 5 just happened to be the first game that I posted videos of. Now, one downside to this game is, while the gameplay is good, it uses delay-based netcode. And while it's stable, because it's delayed netcode, it just does not feel as good as playing offline or playing with rollback netcode, unfortunately. For Guilty Gear Strive, I have mixed feelings about it. On the positive side, I really love the gameplay, as it is a lot of fun, but I absolutely hate the online aspect of it. The rollback netcode is fantastic, but everything else about the online just absolutely sucks, and I hate the stupid lobby system. The way the online works is, first you have to choose a region, then you have to choose a floor for the lobby you're going to get into. Now each lobby can hold up to I think around 24 to 25 players, but even with the cross-play patch that dropped, you can only play against people in that lobby, as there's no general matchmaking system where you can just match up against anyone that wants to play. You can choose to go into training mode and stand by for a match, but again, you only get matched up with 24 or 25 different people. And to make things worse, when you do get matched up with someone, they can see what character you're using. So there's a specific character they do not feel comfortable playing against, or they think it's cheap, they will just decline your matches. And because the pool is so short, since you only get matched up with those 24 or 25 people max, it's going to be pretty hard to find a matchup against people, and it just sucks. Every time I boot up the game, I want to play it because it's fun, but then I got to deal with the online lobby system, and as soon as I play a match, I just quit, because I don't want to deal with the online stuff anymore, and it sucks.
Mankind knew that they cannot change society. So instead of reflecting on themselves, they blamed the beasts, heaven, or hell.
I'll make this painless.
Let's get started.
Chip versus Milia. Duel 1. Let's rock.
Playtime's over.
Surprise!
Slap. Duel 2. Let's rock.
Alpha Blade! Alpha Blade! That all? Shadow Blow! Alpha Blade! Alpha Blade!
Time to finish.
Surprise! Sushi Sukiyaki! Justin, let's go! I'm good with this! Just in pieces!
Die here.
That didn't even kill much time.
When DNF Duel released, I bought it day one because it's a new fighting game and I was looking for something new to play. And damn, was that a big mistake. On day one, people were using touch of death combos and would just kill me with just one really long combo or just one really long combo, then an extra hit. I don't think I lasted more than an hour maybe with the online before I just gave it up completely. It seems the devs gave up on the game too, because I don't believe there's been much in terms of updates ever since the game's release, unfortunately.
불발탄이었나?
아직 수행이 부족해. 좀 더 강해질 거야. 다음 상대는 누굴까? 기대된다.
After spending a lot of time with KOF 98, I was really looking forward to playing KOF 15 online day one. Unfortunately though, when it released, there were serious matchmaking issues, where not only would it take forever to find someone, when I did get matched up with someone, it would be the same person, and it was just an awful experience. And unfortunately, in the future, I'm going to be very very cautious when it comes to considering buying any future SNK game day one. I mean, it has crossplay now, but at this point, I don't really have any interest in revisiting KOF online.
Ready? Go! Banlaku! Look, hey! Katsu! Hey! Hey! Watch it! Hey! Katsu! Hey! KO! Point characters are knocked out.
わけないことだわ。バビッとやっつけちゃうぞ。
Stand your ground. Ready? Go!
あれれ。えい。結界。ライオン剣。ほっ。えい。かっ。口ももないわ。かっ。ないわ。極限流奥義。
Only their anchor remains.
余裕値。
燃やしてやる。Round 4. Ready? Go! What a great fight! Mad respect to the winner! Winner!
あなたのただの自信過剰。私のは実力に裏打ちされた自信だよ。
Finally, we've come to the last game I'm gonna cover on this list, and Street Fighter 6. Now, when this game was first officially announced, I was a bit disappointed because all we got was just like a 1-minute render of Ryu and Luke with no gameplay. I kind of felt like it was a waste of time, along with that awful logo. But when they finally reviewed the gameplay for Sony's State of Play later on, I believe it was 2021 if I remember correctly, that was the most hyped up I've ever become for a video game. Now at first I was a little confused because they were showing up the World Tour mode. I was wondering, what exactly is this? What am I watching? But then once the trailer got to Chun-Li and Ryu, then I was starting to think, okay, we're gonna see some gameplay. And then once they showed it, I was just so blown away. The graphics, it looks so much better than Street Fighter 5. And when it comes to the gameplay mechanics, I saw they brought back the parry and the focus attack from Street Fighter 4. So now I'm thinking, they included all of the good mechanics from the previous Street Fighter games. And then after that reveal, we got more information about not just the battle hub, but also the improved netcode. And most importantly, full crossplay between Xbox, PlayStation, and PC. All of that news along with the trailer just got my excitement up even more. And sure enough, once it finally released this past June, it was everything I ever hoped for and more. So at this point, it's only been out for, let's see, July, August, 3 months. And I've already had some great memories. Like, this past August, I got to go to EVO for the first time, where I got to meet up with a bunch of folks in the FGC Boomers Discord. A couple of them I met in the past, and a bunch of other folks I got to meet for the first time. And I had such a blast hanging out with everyone all weekend. Everyone really made that weekend special for me. And also, for the first time ever, I actually made it out of a pool. For Street Fighter 6, I actually went 4-2 and was able to make it out of the pool. That just felt so awesome. just to go from 2 years where I was in the gold rank in Street Fighter V to actually making it out of a pool at the biggest fighting game tournament ever with 7,000 attendees for Street Fighter 6 specifically, that just made it all the more special. And I'm definitely looking forward to having more memories of Street Fighter 6. And finally, I've come to the end of this really long video. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and I'll talk to you next time.
Round 2. Fight! Guile